All right, still trying to get some things set up, guys. Hopefully, a little bit of patience there. All right, how's everybody doing? Sorry, just trying to get my Twitter up and running here for live as well. So, anyways, so glad you guys are here. It's been a long time, boy. It's been a long time. Sorry, just doing the Twitter verification. Kind of weird stuff. I've never been live on Twitter before, or not Twitter, but TikTok. So I am new to the requirements they're asking me to do. So how are you guys doing? Leave me a note and question. Certainly been a stressful year for me. The last year, we had a pretty slow last year and pretty slow this year so far. So it's definitely put some stress on the situation here. And I don't know how you guys are doing. Leave me a note in the chat. You know, things that you're talking about. And so glad you guys came. Yeah, so things are good. As far as adjusting, I would never leave the career. I love the job. I love what I do. So that's a no-brainer for me. As far as when things get tough, would I leave? And the answer is no way, no way. This job has got a lot of freedom and a lot of good opportunities to being self-employed is really one of the most important parts of my career. Is the fact that I have freedom to do things. I don't have to listen to a boss. I'm not walking into an office every day and checking in with a boss when I wake up in the morning. I can't even remember. It's been 30 something years. Appraisal work. Yeah, Joshua, absolutely. Thought about it. There's certainly stuff out there. Like it's just like what I preach to everyone that's out there is I say, if you're slow in work, you got to push out to all these different types of work in order to find additional work. It's not just going to come to you. They're not just going to call you up and go, "Hey, I got some work." So yeah, I'm doing the same thing. I'm pushing out to a lot of different vendors, a lot of different firms, trying to get new work, bank appraisals, just regular appraisals, umpiring. There's lots of different things. In fact, I did one the other day, commercial. TPA is what they call it, but you're working kind of through multiple layers of firms to find new work. So it's not just like a typical adjusting firm. You just go through one. You're actually going through three different ones in order to find the guys who you're insuring. I'll tell you the really weird part about it is here it is. The insured owns the complex. Okay, so this is a condominium/condominium home complex, multiple units in the same building. So you could have 6 or 8 units in the same building, but the owner owns their own unit. But then our insured owns the building and the property. So this claim was water from the 3rd floor, pipe burst, flooded the 2nd unit below, and flooded the 3rd unit below it. So the insured is actually not responsible to fix the damages. The owner of the property is. Now, here's where it gets kind of confusing, is the owner's policy only states they will cover for the original construction that was there. And any betterments, anything that was improved upon, they're not going to pay. So that's what's really queer is now I'm writing an estimate for the original items that were in less the betterments. So for instance, the original was carpet and vinyl, and they now upgraded it all to vinyl plank flooring. So I'm actually writing an estimate as if I was replacing the carpet and the vinyl. not the vinyl plank flooring. Very confusing. I mean, you try to get your head around that. And then what's interesting is the homeowner's insurance is going to pay for the difference of the betterment, meaning they would go through like their State Farm or whatever in order to cover what we wouldn't pay. They would then pay for the additional. So it was a brain tweezer of a claim, trying to think about what am I actually writing for? And I'm talking to the desk adjuster, which was like three tiers down the road, about what exactly am I writing in this estimate, because it was just really hard. Anyway, so yeah, looking for new work, trying some new things. They're challenging because they're new. So, but how are you guys doing? I know that some of you guys are out west, and you guys are getting hammered and getting tons of work. So I'm so happy for you guys. I'm so jealous. So jealous of you guys out there in the West Coast with all this hail. And believe it or not, in South Carolina here, I'm in North Carolina, so just south of North Carolina, there was a hailstorm last week in Rock Hill, and there's 4.5-inch hail. Guys, 4.5-inch hail. That's that big. I mean, that's like softball size. And believe it or not, I'm calling all my managers and I'm saying, "Hey, send me down to Rock Hill. I'll go to South Carolina, handle some hail claims." And they're like, "We got it all covered." And I'm like, "Oh my goodness, you got to be kidding!" So, hey Hector, thanks for joining me on TikTok. Appreciate it. I'm gonna have to use my phone, guys. I don't know if you guys are 40 or above, but your eyesight blowing up and really you start having problems. So, anyways, that's just part of getting old. And the gray hair. That's getting old too. But hey, glad to be an adjuster. I was trying to tell you guys earlier, for those that were here, I'm still happy to be here. Happy to be doing the adjusting, and would never give it up. I've been doing it 11 years now. There's good years and bad years. I must admit, there's times when it could be a little better, but it is what it is. And this happens to be, probably for the last 12 months or so, it's been slow. Income's been down, definitely been down a lot more. I'm trying to deploy more, but at this time in my life, I wasn't ready to deploy this year, so that was partly my fault. I could have chased some storms, but I chose not to. So that sometimes happens too, guys. So that's just part of, when you have things go on in your life. I make it sound like everything is super in my life, but no, there's a lot of things going wrong in my life, and family related, personal relationships. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff going on. So unfortunately, we take the good, the bad, the ugly, and we still keep going on, moving on, and doing our job. And bad things are going to happen, and we gotta buck up. Just like I've had lots of calls from people that are just struggling. They're saying, "What's wrong? Why can't I find work? What do I got to do?" And I'm getting lots of people watching my videos and leaving me comments and they're saying, "What am I doing wrong?" And I'm trying to tell them, "You're not doing anything wrong. This is just the type of business that this is. It's a up and down business. It doesn't always. It's not always fantastic. Sometimes there's some months that are really dry. Some months are really good, and you just take the good with the bad." So I think I had a question here earlier. Hold on. I'm going to try and get this thing to stay up here. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to keep these up here, and they disappear on me. Working on your second claim of the year. Yeah, you're right, Joshua. There's certainly definitely a lot more ladder assist out there. There's no doubt about that. No doubt about that. Sorry, it's been a long time since I have. There we go. Let's see if I. So you're working on your second. This is Doobie Howser. Okay, I remember that. That's like an old. See that this thing keeps going away. I don't know why my chats are disappearing, but they'll stay there for a second, and then they'll go off. No, don't go away. Sorry. All right, so working on my second claim of the year. It's been rough. I've been getting a lot of calls to get on the rosters of firms, but that's about it. Yeah, so key thing you have to remember about being an adjuster is you got to get on lots of rosters. Okay, when I first started, I got on 40 rosters. I didn't stop at 40. Actually, I probably did more, but the whole point is the more lists that you're on, rosters are lists, potential work clients, and you've got to get on a bunch. I have a lot of people that are on my YouTube channels, and what they'll do is they'll call me up and say, yeah, I got on 5 rosters and nobody's calling me. I'm like, dude, that's not enough. You've got to literally get to the point where you're like, I can't fill out another roster application. This drives me nuts. This is a horrendous amount of wasted time. I'm not doing any more. Get to the point where you're so frustrated with filling them out because you've done so many. That's the level of persistence that you have to have for these rosters. Now, the reason why that's important is years ago when I did that, I was looking for work, and I might only get 1 claim or 2 claims from each firm. And so I was working for 7 or 8 different firms, getting about 1 or 2 claims each. And yes, it was total chaos and really hard sometimes because every carrier had different requirements about how they were doing things. And so it was really frustrating. But I did that because I was not getting a big volume from one specific firm. I could only get 1 or 2 from a firm, maybe a week. But it was great because then I would probably get 7 or 8 claims a week, and I was enough to live on. At that time, it was. So my recommendation is to get on tons and tons of rosters, because what will happen is, sure enough, when you're as slow as molasses and you're not doing anything, one of those rosters out of the blue, because they lost somebody or somebody quit or somebody moved away from their area, now that firm is going to be jumping on a lot of times catadjuster.org looking for someone who is located in your area. Now, if you happen to be on their rosters, they're going to go through the rosters first and say, who do I have in X state? Okay. And your name might come up because you're on the roster. So you got to remember, being on the roster doesn't mean you're going to immediately get work. But if they happen to need somebody, they're going to go through their roster first, look for you, and then you can get a call. That's why it's so important to get on rosters. The more rosters, the better chance you have of getting work. Now, what will happen in the future, and this might be years down the road, but you'll get to a point where they're still calling you for work, but you got enough work with the people you're working with to be able to say, you know what, I appreciate the call. I'll let you know if I have some free time that pops up and I'll be able to get to you. But at this point, I'm staying pretty busy. And that's a great position to be in. It will happen to all of you if you pursue this career wholeheartedly and intensely. You'll get to a point where you'll be turning down work because your work will stand out for itself. You'll get referred from one firm to another. What happens a lot, guys, is firm managers will quit one firm and go work for another. Well, guess what? They'll remember your name. Now, it's kind of interesting. I had this actually happen to me. I had a manager who did switch companies, and he's not allowed to solicit me to try and take me away from the original roster that he was working with. It's kind of like their passe thing they're not allowed to do. So I got it. I was like, no big deal. But what I did was I found out he was moving over to that firm. And so I sent him an email when, right before he was leaving and saying, oh, so sorry to hear you leaving. Do you have a contact number? And so he gave me a cell phone number. And the reason why it was important, I already had a cell phone number, but he made sure that I had a cell phone number. But he said, give me a call in a couple of weeks and we can catch up. And I said, cool, okay. So sure enough, he had his new position, and he met me for coffee, came into town, met me for coffee, and said, hey, just want to let you know I switched firms, doing really well. If you need anything, let me know. And that was it. There was no, get on our roster. There was no solicitation for work, nothing. So he was right in line. He was just saying, being a friend and saying, hey, I'm here to help. Well, sure enough, I got a little bit slow, and a couple months later, and I remembered that conversation. And so I said, yeah, I'm just going to give him a call. So I gave him a call and said, hey, do you guys need any work? Or do you have any work that you could help me out with? And he goes, well, why don't you get on my roster and we'll see. So got on the roster. Sure enough, the lady from the deployment center gave me a call and said, oh, I hear you're in this area. And, we got a recommendation that you're a very good adjuster from so-and-so that was at, their firm. and I got some work. So managers do move around. They just can't call us up and say, hey, I'm at this brand new firm. I need some guys. When you come over, you want to leave where I was before and come over here. You can't do that. I mean, that's passe. You can't do it. But if we pursue it and we are seeking out work and we go through the right channels, then we can do it. So it works out really well. Let me see what I got here, guys. All right, guys. So happy you guys are here on the live. I'm going to, somehow I wish these stupid chat things would stay on so I could actually see your questions and have them stay there. Yeah, so you're a staff, Stephen, you're a staff adjuster thinking about becoming an independent adjuster. Any good advice? Yeah, so staff adjuster is a great opportunity to get your feet wet. Absolutely no experience sometimes when you walk in as a staff adjuster. I tell people all the time, this is a great opportunity to learn the basics like policy language, just how the claim process works. These are all real important details of adjusting that it just helps, for just to get the basics out. And then once you're a staff adjuster, you're learning kind of like both sides. Potentially you're learning the field side, if they let you out and do that. Maybe you're working some auto, maybe you're working some property, maybe you're working policy stuff, maybe you work underwriting. There's lots of different things that you can work as a staff adjuster if you're moving around. The downside to the staff adjuster is they really limit your growth potential and your money potential until you spend a lot of time there. And I've heard this from multiple people that were staff adjusters that said, man, I get my 5% raise and that's it. Or hardly I can't ever get a new position because they're always, staffing at new positions or moving people around. There's hardly any opportunity. So that's the problem with staff adjusting. But moving into the independent adjusting side is really hard too. Is really hard too, because you're going from a full-time position as a staff adjuster with lots of work and a great paycheck, steady paycheck, to going into the adjusting world where it could be sporadic, not consistent money or consistent work, and it can be kind of stressful. But you do make more money, no doubt, absolutely no doubt, make more money as an independent adjuster. And you can really bust your tail, just like I was talking earlier. You just get on a bunch of rosters and you just pursue, and you say, hey, I'm willing to go anywhere. You call up the deployment center and say, hey, if you got a cat or catastrophe event anywhere in the country, I'm willing to go. Set me up, I want to go. And you just push. That's what I did. Guys, this is what I did. I called up every single one of them and said, anywhere that you have daily claims that you have a need for, I'll go. And guess what? I was deployed within literally 2 weeks. I did that twice and went to totally different states, went to Maryland, went to Louisiana, doing both scenarios. Just picked up everybody, picked the family up, rented a house, and just said, I'm just going to go here because the opportunity was there. And I did that, and those managers were very thankful for that because I helped them out with a need that they had. So don't, if you got a position where you can go somewhere, or you have that freedom to say, hey, I just want to go for a year and travel and just, take your kids or whatever. Or if you don't have kids, just take your wife and say, what, let's just go. Let's just try this. It's going to be the best stepping stone for you to getting much better work in the future is as soon as you get some level of claim handling. I mean, the whole point of it, guys, remember, everybody talks about this. Well, do you have 2 years experience? Well, if you don't have any experience, of course you have to answer the question no. So do everything you can right away, as fast as you can, to get your 2 years experience in, because that's what everybody's looking for. But if you're sitting at home and maybe you're doing one claim a month, they're going to ask for those numbers, not just 2 years experience as an adjuster or not 2 years licensed as an adjuster. They're going to be looking for, hey, how many claims did you do in that last 2 years? And if you say, oh, I've done 8, well, they're going to say, you don't have any experience. So the point is, how are you going to get that experience? And the only way you're going to get that experience is get out there, do anything, go anywhere, and just say yes to everything for the first 2 years. And it might be miserable and it might be uncomfortable, and you might be living in a box somewhere, that you don't want to live. You might have to be away from your friends for a little bit. But once you get your career going, and get past that 2 years and everybody sees you as an experienced adjuster because you've done 200 claims or whatever you've done, then you're going to be a commodity that they look at and go, he's trustworthy, he does what he says he does, he turns in a good product. Yes, definitely we're going to keep using them. So that's my advice for you on that. Don't ever turn down an opportunity. All right, another question. Do you travel or are you based in a region or state? Yeah, so Mark, like I mentioned, just on, and hey, I ramble, I talk a lot. So I'm probably going to answer all your questions before you have to ask them. So I'm based in North Carolina, but I wasn't originally. I started my career in Frederick, Maryland, and then I went to Indiana, and then I went to Texas, and then I went to Florida, and then I went to Louisiana, and then I came to North Carolina. So I traveled a bunch because I went for the opportunity. I went to go there for the work. And that was, with State Farm beginning, they were offering the hubs or the different locations for the work. It was a matter of going to those locations, staying there for sometimes only a month. But what happened is, as long as I was diligent in my work and I did a good job, then I stood out amongst the crowd, and then they would extend you another month and extend you 3 months. And then sometimes you even get a year deployment where they would actually contract you out for a year. So great opportunity. Yes, a little bit difficult in a place that you don't know anybody. But hey, if you're trying to build your career, then it really doesn't matter. You're going to do anything you want to get that career going. And then once it's going, then I can live here in Raleigh and do all my work here and travel if I feel like it. And I love going on catastrophe. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of money, but it's not always practical based on whatever's going on in your life at that time. So just keep that in mind. All right, let's see what else we got. All right, good. I'm glad I answered your question, Mark. You're welcome, Stephen. All right, you guys, any questions? Make sure you hit the like button. I don't know if YouTube's got a like, but TikTok's got a like button. So make sure you hit the like button. I don't know anything about lives, but hey, if you got any questions, make sure you let me know. I got 17 people in here on YouTube, and nobody's answering me a question or asking me a question. So ask me a question. Oh, here we go. How much did you make your first year as a catastrophe adjuster, if you don't mind? Oh, I'll answer these questions at all. So my first year, I did not go out as a catastrophe adjuster. So like I said, my first work was sitting at a desk for State Farm. And they were flat rate. Everybody made the same money. We made about $100,000. That was $35.75, I think I can remember the number, per hour, 60 hours a week. And everybody made the same money. That was great money. I mean, I was very pleased to be sitting there. Now, the frustrating part was that people doing nothing sitting next to you were making the same money. So that was very, very frustrating. That's what got me out of ever working for somebody in an office. And I always wanted to be self-employed for that reason, was because I couldn't stand that there were people making the same amount of money I was making and doing half the work. So that's frustrating. But catastrophe work, you don't really go out. I know there are some catastrophe guys that go all year round and can work catastrophes nonstop. But typically your catastrophe event is maybe 2 weeks to a month. The longest one I went on was a month. Well, actually, the longest one I was on was 3 months, but it was 3 different cats. So I was in a month in each location. And so I was actually away from the house for almost 3 months. And that was tremendous. That was 2017, I think it was. Yeah, I don't know. It was a storm after storm after storm, and it was a phenomenal event. I just kept going. Made a lot of money. So I made about $25,000, I think, on my first one. I was not very skilled on the first one. The second one, about the same, maybe just under that, about 20,000. So you have to remember, you got to take taxes and you got to take expenses out of that. So yes, you can make 25,000 in a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, but you've got your taxes that got to come out of that and your hotel. So all your expenses are your own. So if you're eating out every night, blowing through, $30 a day in food or more, and back then that was a lot of money. Today, $30 is not much. Now you're looking at $50 a day probably for food. Yeah, so back then, you could blow through some money if you're staying in a $60 to $100 a night hotel. Now that same hotel is much more expensive, so you're going to go through that. So got to remember, it's not all your money. It's going to take taxes and expenses to come out first, but it's still really good money. So catastrophe work is really, really impressive. It's really good. I know a lot of people make a lot more than that too. So John, I called for Nebraska and Iowa tornado work. We'll see on Monday about volumes. Yeah. Oh, that's a great area. Oh my goodness. I get the hail reports every day for the whole state or for the whole United States, and yeah, they just got hit really. What is the impact score 4 out of 5? Really, really good. Who are my favorite carriers to run for, and who would you recommend? Yeah, that kind of changes from year to year. Back I would say even just 3 years ago. State Farm was a great one, and I don't know if you guys heard rumors, but I don't know if they're true because I didn't follow through with it. But Allstate, I guess one of the managers from Allstate or owners or corporate bigroos moved from Allstate over to State Farm and completely changed the way they handled claims. So Allstate was never really a great one for handling claims. And then when they moved out to State Farm, they kind of changed everything for State Farm. So then State Farm changed, and they became not a very good carrier to work for, and they're still bad today. I work for Progressive, which I would think as an adjuster, they're probably the elite carrier for me. If I could get nothing but Progressive claims, that's all I would ever do. They handle the damage to the insured very well. They treat the customers really well. I don't know what their premiums are like, but I haven't heard anybody complain about premiums. They pay the adjuster phenomenal. That's probably one of the highest paying fee schedules that I have ever done. Yeah, great, Joshua. I'm serious. It's just, they're the gold mine. They're absolutely gold mine. Now, the other ones I work for, Universal Insurance of Universal North America, they're out of Florida. They are really fair on a 3-tab shingle for damage to the insured. I like them because they literally only take one shingle. If it's a 20-year 3-tab shingle, they are going to buy that whole roof, even if there's only one shingle damaged on that roof. So I know pretty much if I'm walking in, if I get a claim from Universal and it's wind related and it's an older home, I'm buying that roof. I already know I'm buying the roof because it's a 3-tab. I'm probably there to look at bent shingles. So they're pretty amazing. Water claims, they pay a flat rate for their interior claims. It's a pretty good fee schedule, so it's not bad. But the downside is if you get a really, really big water claim, they're still paying the same. So it kind of sucks. That part really sucks. When I get into a whole house flood and I'm making a flat rate, it's really a crummy fee schedule. But you got to remember, the majority of claims are small claims. They're under $5,000 typically, or it's a roof. And the roof's only like 12 or 13 lines. Really simple to do. Yeah, I got to climb a roof, but overall amount of work to write a roof claim is very small versus a water claim. So I kind of get burnt on the really large water claims or the fire claims. Now I do call my manager on a fire claim and say, hey, can I double bill on this one? And they normally do. So I get 2 flat rate prices. So that's actually really good. That's Universal. Horace Mann, I also work for. They're for school teachers. Not my favorite, but they give me lots of work. so that's kind of the bottom of my totem pole there. But I don't want to turn them down because they do give me a fair bit of work. So some is better than none. I used to do UPC insurance, but they went out of business. They're out of Florida. That's the first insurance company I heard in a long time that went out of business. So that was kind of a bummer, but yeah. All right, let me see what else we got here, folks. Sorry for having to keep touching the screen here because this thing. Hey, Peter, how's it going? Yes, I remember you. Thank you. Hey, guys, yeah, don't forget. Peter was talking about that we had a private lesson about a month ago. Yeah, we do that consulting call, guys, where if you want to get some one-on-one in consulting, check out my YouTube channel. What I do is have a link in there, and what we'll do is we'll set up time where we can call or video, talk to you for an hour. I think it's like $199. I think it's a pretty good deal because, I don't know, you're talking very specifically to me about your specific plans in the adjusting world, and it's catered to you. So who wouldn't want a mentor that could just sit there and tell you everything that would be perfect for you in particular, to make your career successful? And sometimes we talk about problems that you've been doing in the world of looking for work, or maybe your speed, things that you need to improve on. Maybe you don't have enough certifications. So we'll talk about all that stuff. We'll talk about your licenses, which ones you have, what certifications you have, where you could probably improve, whether you have Xactimate 1 or 2 skill level. There's lots of things we can talk about, and I think it's helpful to all. I've had nothing but good comments about it, so glad to help. And also don't forget to check out my macros. The macros for those had very good feedback. Macros are shortcuts to write estimates. You basically get a list of about 400 of them. Some of them are junk. I mean, hey, I've been building these things for 11 years. I would say there's about 10% in there kind of overlapped. I don't say junk, I just use them. I still use them, but they're not tweaked as much as they could be. But so when you get into an estimate, hey, I got to put a roof on. Well, what I did is I saved about 15, 20 line items for everything that could potentially be on a roof. And I saved it in and put a label on it like, hey, for universal insurance or ASI insurance, or maybe even a generic, I'll put in like 3-tab, 20-year replace. Or for some carriers, I'll put in 3-tab, 20-year hip replace. The other one might be gable replace, because they have different waste levels on these, depending on the carrier you work for. So what it does is you take that macro, drop it into the drawing onto your sketch that you did in Xactimate, and all those line items populate. And some of those features in there are like the squares are calculated, the linear feet, the perimeter of the roof, the hips, the eave, the gable. I mean, all those things are all put in for you. And a lot of times just some very small tweaking, and you got the whole estimate built for you in seconds. I actually use my own macros every single estimate that I build. Otherwise, I'd have to go through and put line item by line item in and build the thing from scratch. I do it for all your macros for interior painting walls, drywall repairs, siding repairs, windows replacements, lots of different flooring types, whether it's laminate floor, engineered flooring, snap lock, vinyl plank, tile plank, you name it. I mean, every imaginable thing that you could have. And the macros are always available. It's a download. Look in the description on one of my videos. It'll say macros. You can watch. I've made a couple, 3 videos on them, kind of teaching you how they work, and it works. So, John, I think I've sold a ton of these macros, guys. So they're obviously very popular. I've had nothing but good feedback. I think I've had one. I had one comment where the guy said, I already had some macros in my pile, and when I brought your 400 in, they went all over the place, and so I can't even find my other macros. That is a big problem with Xactimate. They should allow you to put folders in your macros. That's, if Xactimate's listening, put some folders in your macros so that we can save them in groupings. That would be a whole lot easier. So I label mine alphabetically, and when I search for the macro, I just type in what I'm looking for. I put in horseman if I'm looking for horseman insurance. I put HM, universal, UNIV, or ASI. Those are all different labels. The other thing that I do is I might just be looking for siding, so I'll just put in siding. But it depends on how you label it. So if you label the description of your macro properly, maybe it's satellite dish, or some of these things are hard to find in Xactimate. So why save macros to make things super fast to find? So just something like that. I mean, I'm even saving new macros every day that I work, because there's something that came up. Either the carrier changed some of the requirements and how they do things, and so I had to tweak my macros, or I found something out of the blue that I had never used before, and I want to remember where it is. So they come in handy very well. Yeah, commercial macros are hard. I've got some with flat roofing, but I just don't do enough commercial work, so I didn't build a whole bunch of stuff for that, for commercial stuff. But it's in there. I mean, and a lot of times they want you doing bids anyways. They don't want you just making it up. So, all right, let's look here. Oh, that's great, John. You did Universal in California. Yeah. Well, like I said, Universal is an awesome insurance company, and I have not had hardly any complaints from the insureds. So here's the thing, guys. When you're working, you're going to know who the good insurance carriers are because you're going to hear from the owners, and they're going to say, "I'm so mad at my carrier. They're trying to not pay this, they're trying to not pay that, and they're arguing with the roofer and arguing with me." And yeah, I mean, you hear it, so I know who all the good ones are. All right, let's see. In Dallas, Texas, Eberl is a training facility with a 2-week course. First week Xactimate, second week claims, construction and harness training is enough to start claims. Oh yeah, that's great. Yeah, I like those. Like I went to Alacrity and did a couple day. I think it was a 2 or 3 day training with them to get my State Farm certification. Definitely worth getting every day of the week because it'll teach you some really great stuff. 2-week course, it's a little overkill. But hey, if you're that far, if you really don't have that much experience and you're looking for it, then man, in 2 weeks you're going to get a ton of claims. Or I mean, you're going to get a ton of experience so you can handle claims. Patrick, I already have my Texas All Lines license, but I need somewhere to start. I'm not struggling with my first claim property. Well, here's the thing. No matter what, John, no matter what experience level you have with as many training courses as you take, as many videos that you watch of mine or somebody else's, you get on to a claim and it's going to take you forever to do. Your first claim, no matter what, I don't care who you are. It's so new. The concept of writing claims when you're doing a brand new job, and then you're going to get into Xactimate, and you're going to struggle with the sketching, you're going to struggle with getting the square footages right, you're going to take forever finding those line items. Trust me, when I first started, it would take me 6 hours to write an estimate. I can write that same estimate in 30 minutes now. So literally, you can't prepare yourself. What's going to make you a better adjuster is repetitively doing claims. Okay, this is what I'm trying to get to you guys to understand is that if you would get out there, get the claims no matter what they are, even if they're the lowest paying claims, trash insurance company, and you're just out there getting the work, you are going to get faster and faster the more you do. If you're only doing 1 a month or 2 a month or 5 a month, you're just not going to get the skill level to speed up. You're just not going to do it. So it's going to come with time. So that's why I think they take that 2 years of experience level is they know that the most of the new adjusters are not going to be working consistently for 2 years. They're not. They're going to be sporadically working 1 or 2 claims. I mean, I talked to a friend of mine who was down in Wilmington as a new adjuster. And he said he's lucky to get 2 claims a week. And so you can't put down that you have 2 years experience if you're only working 2 claims a week. I mean, yeah, you might be an adjuster for 2 years, but you don't have the experience level of a 2-year adjuster. So you just got to keep that in mind. That's what they're going to be asking those questions for. So the best thing is work for everybody. Just try and find some work. So no matter who it is. Timba, yeah. I talked to basically the macros. I feel my macros there's 400 and plus now, like 400 macros. In the macros, it's pretty much, I want to say it's everything, but I would say it's the most common items that you will ever come across in writing claims. There is a macro in there for it. And yes, there's tweaking involved in every macro. So it's not a perfect plan. I'm not giving you a cheat sheet so that you never have to tweak anything in your plan or in these macros. But you got to remember, you're building, when you go into write an estimate, you are writing an estimate for every single line item that potentially could be on that damaged area. So as simple as a hole in the wall where there was a little bit of water that dripped and stained the wall and puckered up the paint. Okay, so now you're going through. First of all, you're going to end up painting that room. So you're going to have a content line. You're going to be taking out all the contents in that room and putting them somewhere else. Line 1 is content. Second, painting, masking. Okay, you're going to cover the floor. You're going to cover potentially putting a tape line in plastic or a tape line to protect the ceiling from getting damaged when you paint the walls. Okay. 3, you've got a drywall patch. So that's another line item. And some carriers will let you use the patch line. Others will say, no, you got to take out half-inch sheetrock on the wall and put in half-inch sheetrock on the wall. Now, it depends if there's insulation. You have insulation in that wall that got wet. Okay, then you're going to prime that area. Okay, prime it 4 square feet or whatever. Depending on the carrier, it could be bigger. Okay, I have a carrier now that's saying, no, we want you to prime and paint that whole wall that was damaged. And then we want you to paint the rest of the walls one coat. I don't understand that. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. Why am I putting 2 coats on an entire wall when there's only 4 square feet that's damaged? Why don't I just prime the one spot, paint the one spot, and then paint the rest of the wall, the whole room, one coat? That would make sense to me, but no, there's some carriers that are different. Okay, so then once you've painted you've painted the prime spot, you painted the whole room once. If that's just the painting of the room, now you got to clean the room, okay? Because you got dust that's created by the drywall dust. So you got 5, 6, 7 lines, whatever, and that's not even talking about if you had a piece of baseboard that was put off. Then you got the baseboard, you got to prime the baseboard, then you got to paint the rest of the baseboard to match the paint. Well, then you got to paint the door trim because the baseboard comes up close to that casing and you'll be able to see the color difference. So now you got to paint the casing on the door. I mean, there's lots of line items. Well, I create the macro that has all those line items in it. And the only thing that I change, well, how much linear foot of base was damaged or how much drywall was damaged? Was it 4 square feet or 6 square feet or 8 square feet of drywall? So I just got to change one little number. I got to change the length of the baseboard, and I got to change the number of doors that may need painting. Otherwise, perimeter of floor is already in that calculation, and it'll do that no matter what size room I drew. I drop that macro into that room, it's going to measure all those things for me and put them in. So the macros are life-changingly saving time. So I want you guys to know that's the whole point. I would not write an estimate personally without a macro, because it just takes too long. Now, when I get into specialty houses, I had one the other day. It was a 1940s house, all wood, custom, basically 1x6 planks on the wall, 1x6 on the roof, 1x6 on the attic floor, and I had a tree go through it. Okay, so I couldn't use any of my macros. Not a single macro was used on that whole house. It had a metal roof. It was a specific metal roof, tin. So I couldn't even use my metal roof macro. So you're going to get into some of those. And I had asbestos on the exterior siding. So it wasn't even a standard siding. So anyway, so you're going to get into some of those houses where the macros you can't use at all. And that's just a fact of life. But majority of houses use the exact same macro. You're just popping them in and changing a few details, so they really speed up some time. Just remember that. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. Don't forget to hit the like button. Actually, I do see a couple likes on the YouTube and Twitter. Thank you for coming. Not Twitter, TikTok. Thank you for coming. Everybody's like, you have a TikTok? Oh, yeah, I have a TikTok because lots of people watch, and I don't care who they are. I'm here to advertise. So if you don't know my TikTok channel, I think it's Daniel the Adjuster as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you will hopefully learn a lot. All right, so yeah, Patrick. Yeah, finding answers hard. So that's why I was hoping to kind of do more lives lately so that I can get some answers out there. A lot of your adjusters are selling courses now. So, I'm kind of I don't know. I'm kind of bent out of shape on that a little bit. Courses to me are it's funny. I bring this up because I'm doing stock stuff lately. Not as much stock, but more crypto. And one of the things that I've seen over and over and over again is influencers that are selling their Discords where you got to sign up and pay a monthly fee to get on their Discord or their Telegram. And I'm like, Why am I going to pay you? I don't even know who you are or how you trade or if you make any money or if anything you have content-wise is worth getting. And you want me to pay like $8 or $10 a month for to watch you? No. So anyway, so it's the same thing with adjuster courses. I'm a little bit, you know, that's kind of why I started this channel. Is I said, you know what, there's an opportunity for us to learn from people who are in the industry without having to pay for something. The macros are, personal preference. You don't have to buy it to enjoy my content. It's just a tool that will help you do your job better. So that's the only reason I'm doing the macros. But no, as far as a course, take those at your own risk. Hey, Timba, thanks for your purchase on the macros. Really appreciate it. I really do. You won't be disappointed. I had a comment a while back on one of my macros. The lady said, been using them for a whole year, and now I never build an estimate without them. So I couldn't be more happier. Hey, Ringo Roofing, yes. Hey, how's it going? Good to see you again. Christian, thank you for your compliment. I'm awesome. Yes, I'm awesome. Well, I wouldn't exalted alpha. I would not say that they're not good enough to be doing claims. I've actually seen some pretty good people that are doing good content. I just think that what they're doing is going to the next level and saying, hey, my YouTube's not making enough money or whatever it is. I'm going to go to the next route and see if I can bring some more money in. And that's the only thing I think it is. Influencers are here to make money. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not making a ton of money on my YouTube channel, so just be downright clear. It's paying for my website and a few other things, but a little bit of my equipment. You don't get rich unless you have hundreds of thousands of followers. And so everybody dreams about that. And so if they're not getting the kind of following that they want, then a lot of times they'll put in the links and say, hey, you can do this or send me a gift, I see the stuff on TikTok, cracks me up. Some chick half dressed, send me a gift. I'm like, really? Yes, we're ludicrous, kind of crazy, but oh, I'm glad, Christian. Yeah, I'm here to motivate guys. It's like I said, it was tough. The first couple of years I did this, it was rough. It was hard. It was hard getting work, and but you just got to stick to it. A lot of people quit before they succeed. Airbnb versus hotels. Oh, a good question. You know what? Airbnb has changed a lot. Yeah, back in the day, this was about 8 years ago, I did stay in an Airbnb, and it was awesome because they only had like a $50 cleaning fee. Now, $150 a night at Airbnb and $150 to clean it. Their fees are crazy, absolutely crazy. So you spend $300 a night to stay somewhere. Nah, I'm not gonna do that. So they actually, and there's a big viral thing going on right now with that on YouTube and TikTok right now about Airbnb, just crazy charges that are going on with their units. So I stay at a hotel. My favorite hotel is the Marriott Residence Inn, and I love it because they serve breakfast, and then I think it's like 3 nights a week they serve dinner. Now, it's pretty cheap dinner and nothing special, but it eliminates me from having to buy that meal, the morning and the evening meal, for about half my week. So I save money on that. Normally, their washing machines and stuff are on every floor, so it's really, really convenient for doing laundry. They put in 2 or 3 washing machines in each room, in the room on each floor, and it's super convenient. I love that. They're normally located around a lot of restaurants, so if you did want to get something, they deliver right to you, and the rates are relatively cheap. You can get a $99 place, and your internet's free, and I mean just a lot of conveniences there. I've done the math a lot of times on whether getting an RV or camping or staying at a Red Roof Inn or something like that where it's cheap, all the differences. And I look at it and go, why would I want to slum myself in a dirty old hotel, probably lice infected? Actually, I was in one that was lice infected. I walked out the same night. So I did not want to stay in that thing. But yeah, why sacrifice on cleanliness for a $30 or $40 difference when you're going to be making killer money on a catastrophe. So definitely, don't go living in the high and mighty, but go stay in a nice place. Don't cut corners. And they have the kitchen, full kitchen, so you can bring crock pot or whatever you're doing. That's a really handy thing for doing meals on catastrophe work, is doing crock pot meals. Just put all the junk in the morning and then it's there in the afternoon. So, all right, guys. No more questions? Really? I got caught up? No, kickbacks. Oh, Joshua, yeah, you said, do you still get kickbacks? Yeah, of course. I don't think any, I think there are some guys that will write pretty consistently some really good estimates and have very few kickbacks. But I think it's just why would there be file reviewers if there weren't kickbacks? It's file reviewers' job is to take a second look at it. And here's the thing. You're tired, you've been working on this estimate for 3 hours, you just miss stuff. It's not uncommon, it's very common. And carrier guidelines change all the time. They correct me all the time for this. I just had one the other day. I'm like, my macros said we do it this way. And I said, when did that change? And she goes, just the other day. I said, I didn't get an email. So carrier, oh, you didn't get that? I'm like, no, carrier didn't say anything about that change. And so, yeah, they're changing all the time, so the macros get tweaked just a little bit. So, yeah, so the file reviewers are there just kind of keep us up, honest, and keep us basically on track for making sure we do a good job and we turn in a good product. So, yeah, nothing wrong with kickbacks. Thanks, Nasser. I appreciate your compliments. You know what? You're right, Tim, but that video, for some reason, did not get uploaded into that pack of macros. Okay, so what I'm going to do, if you would do a very simple search on YouTube and do Xactimate macro import, you will find a video that's done by Xactimate. It's only a minute, maybe, minute, 20 seconds, something like that. They teach you how to import and export those macros. You can find it'll come up on the second or third hit on YouTube. And that's the link I send to everybody. Sorry, I got to fix that because I did get that question a fair bit. But yeah, that's a really easy video. It's really simple. Drones or cameras on a pole? Ooh. Well, I can't use a drone, John. All the carriers have pretty much eliminated adjusters, independent adjusters especially, not staff adjusters. Now, if you're a staff adjuster going out in the field, they're going to allow you to use a drone because they don't want you climbing a roof because they're paying for your health insurance. So they don't want you falling off a roof. So a lot of your desk adjusters who work for carriers are allowed to use drones or cameras on poles, whatever. Yeah, we cannot. So as an independent, you're going to put boots on the roof. And they're kind of picky. Some of the carriers are really picky. Like they'll say, well, how many shingles were damaged on that slope? You didn't get on that slope? Because maybe I didn't take a photo of that specific slope. And, they want to see an overview and I missed the photo, and that happens occasionally. And then the carrier will write back, a desk adjuster or somebody saying, did you get a photo of that back slope of the lower level? And I'm like, no, didn't get it. Sorry. But, lots of damage in the upper, lots of damage on the fronts and the right and left. So I think we're good. So, yeah. So, got to get the photos, but they want boots on the roof. And, if you're fearful of climbing on roofs, I was a little hesitant when I first started. And I just used a rope and harness on every one of them, tied it to a tree on the other side of they make this really cool throw toys. That's what I call them. But it's a bean bag. I think it's a pound. And it's attached to nylon rope in a bag. And you just whirl this thing around, you throw it over the roof, it goes 100 miles an hour. It flies over the roof. And then you get to the end of your rope and you tie end of that, or close to the end of that nylon rope. And you attach your rope to it, go on the other side, pull, and your rope will go over the roof. You tie it to a tree, tie the one in the front to another tree or the railing or your car, your bumper or whatever, and you climb the roof. And you got a rope on both sides. You can pull up one side and you pull up the other side and you drag it across the ridge and get to where it is, and you always have a rope there. So, and then if you want to put a harness on, great. You can you get some mountain climbing gear, and they got these little tensioners that you can use to pull yourself up. I did that almost all the time when I first started, just to make sure I was comfortable on the roofs. And then now I don't use ropes hardly at all. Maybe once every 6 months, maybe now I use a rope. So that's just how it works. Alrighty. Do I like to handle big claims, or do I prefer small claims? I prefer roofs. Okay. And I don't care how big the roof is. I don't care. It could be the biggest roof in the world, because I'm going to get paid more on that big roof. Everything is paid on square footage and dollar price of the estimate. So if unless you're getting paid a flat rate. Okay. So let me clarify that. But if you're getting paid on a fee schedule, roofs are the fastest way to get that estimate over $20,000 and make some serious cash on that estimate. Most of your claims are, $5,000 to $12,000, and that's just an average pay. It's not, it's good, but it's not terrific. But once you get over a $20,000 estimate, then your fee gets really high. And if you could do every one of those every day of the week, boy, you'd make some serious cash. Water claims, I hate them, but I get them. And that's just part of life. Toilets, washing machines. We got some defective pipes that, water supply lines on toilets are defective. They break all the time. So that's a very common claim that we get all the time, is these water claims for that. Get some fires. Not as much. I went through a time where I was getting a bunch of fires, and then all of a sudden it slowed down. I wouldn't get fires anymore. Maybe they had somebody else handle them because they knew I complained about them too much. Fires are hard. Fires are a ton of work, and you might have 700 line items in a fire claim. So, and yeah, they do add up. They pay well, but they just take a long, long time. So very stressful. You're trying to figure out what was in the house before it got burnt. And a lot of times, if you get a complete burn, like where all the inside of one room is gone, or multiple rooms. So like the fire happens in the kitchen, and it might have burnt every single thing in the kitchen, but then the rest of the house has got soot and heat damage to a lot of the other parts of the house, and probably even went through the air conditioning duct and damaged all that and the unit for there. So finding out, when you're walking in and you've got, all the water from the firemen and all the drywall junk that's all on the floor, and you got to dig through that to find out what kind of flooring is on that, or try and get a sample of the flooring. That's really annoying. And then trying to get the quality of cabinets from the burnt stuff, serial numbers from microwaves or stoves. All those things really just take a lot of time. You're crawling through a lot of junk, a lot of fire damage. If the roof has been on fire, then you got potential stuff falling on your head. So it's fire stuff's kind of rough. I don't really care to do them, but I would rather do small claims, flat rate, or roofs. So how would I start as a public adjuster in Chicago? Is there any books I'd studied before this line of work? So I can't help you with that, Nasser. I don't know a lot about public adjusting. I don't have a whole lot of good to say about public adjusting. That's just my personal opinion. You want to also look carefully about the pros and cons of being a public adjuster. One of the cons is that you cannot be an independent adjuster once you have become a public adjuster. Okay, so you can do it the other way around. You can be an independent and then go public, but I have never heard of a public adjuster being able to go independent. Now, I'm sure there's a possibility and a rare occurrence, but the reason why I state this is because on most of my applications in the rosters, the carriers are kind of putting together their applications a little bit, and one of their questions are, have you ever been a public adjuster? And the reason they're asking this is because you are biased towards the insured when you are a public adjuster, because you're representing them, okay? And you hate insurance companies. because you're thinking every single insurance company is ripping people off, and so that's why you want to represent the insured as a public adjuster. So the downside is the carrier then says, I don't like that bias. I don't like that potential bias that he might have more favoritism towards the insured than to us. When we want an independent to be right in the middle and unbiased on both sides, meaning I'm not favoring the insurance company, I'm not favoring the insured. So that's something you want to make a decision. Each person has to make that decision. Public adjusting is great work. I mean, lots of it. A lot of times it's for a very convenient thing for people who don't speak English. So I found a lot of foreigners are using public adjusters just as translators and helpers to help them get through that process. But in my personal opinion, a public adjuster is not really needed today because that's where the independent adjuster came in. The difference between an independent adjuster and a public adjuster is that the public adjuster has to be paid by the insured, which means you take a little bit of the profit of that insured's claim as your payment for your services. So that kind of rubs me a little bit the wrong way because I'm then now affecting that insured from getting their full amount in order to be able to fix their house. Now, on the flip side, a public adjuster would argue and say, oh, well, we can guarantee them 20, 30% more than the insurance company will pay. Well, that just means you're going to make money too. So it's just a tricky borderline of which way to go when you're a public adjuster versus an independent. Just know that you need to check that out before absolutely deciding on public, because you will not be able to be an independent on probably 9 times out of the 10 carriers would not accept that. So just keep that in mind. Something to pay attention to. All right, Raul. Okay, sorry. I'm married, looking to make a career out of it. How do you juggle family and work, having to travel? Can you decide how long you want to work for at other states? That's a great question. Certainly a very calculated decision that you want to make with you and your spouse. For me, I was homeschooling my family, so us traveling around was easier than the average person, but it did take an engagement of my, I say now, ex-wife, for her to basically be involved in knowing that she was going to be pulling up a lot of the slack by coming. If she was coming with us, then she knew that I was not going to be the father engaging all the time to help out, because I was going to be really, really busy and very stressful. But the thing that they really loved, and this was the big plus of it, is they got to go to states, like I've been to 27 states. And so they got to go to places they had never been before. They spent their days looking at museums and all the sites, all the great attractions of each area that we went to while I was busy working. And then what I did for them is I said, hey, at the end of this event, we'll spend a couple extra days here, and you could show me your best things that you found in this town, and we'll go see them back again. We'll go back and do them again. And so that's the reward that they did, was they got to enjoy weeks at a place they'd never been before, seeing all the attractions and having fun, staying in a hotel, getting the buffet breakfast they just loved. I mean, they eat more than you and I combined. But they loved it, and were always asking me when the next event they would go. So for me, it worked out really well for our family to go on these events. In fact, they all look forward to it even more. And but then for a person who their wife has a job, their kids are in public school or private school, staying at home, you have to make a decision of whether you want to go away and be away from your wife or your family for a month. But with the return being, hey, we can bring in 3 times the amount of income that we normally bring in, sometimes that would be worth that risk. Not risk, but that opportunity. Now, I'm going to be dead honest with you guys. This is something that affected me in the last couple of years, actually about the last 4 years. When I first got into this line of work, one of the mentors, I had 3 mentors when I got started. And these were just guys I could talk to on the phone. One guy was actually local. And one of the things that he told me was, he said, adjusting is really hard on the family. Being an insurance adjuster is really hard on the family. So he kept trying to drive that into me and saying, just keep everything in perspective. He said, if you would look at the statistics of the amount of divorces and the amount of problems that people have in their families with adjusters, it's very high. And that's because we get on different, journeys or roads than our wives and family do when we become an adjuster. Because first of all, you're self-employed. The majority of your adjusters are self-employed. And we see the potential of tons of extra money right there at our fingertips. Right there. If I do another catastrophe, we can make this. We can pay off that extra debt. We can buy a boat. We can buy that beach house we've always wanted. So the opportunity for unlimited income or really, really good income is always a tease to the typical guy. Now, a girl, she's going to be looking at, well, family's important. You being around at home is important. You have to disappear for a month or two and I don't see you for a month or two. The stress level for her is super high. The kids are undisciplined because dad's not around. The burden it gets on her is atrocious. So I thought I could solve the problem by bringing the family with me. And I thought it was going really well. And what happened was I was very stressed because I then had my children and family with me. And I was getting angry and frustrated because I was being distracted. We were in a hotel room together, small space. Didn't go really well for me. So the problem that kind of drove me to the scenario where I'm now divorced is, I think that was a snowball that occurred over my 11 years of doing this. Probably the last, I'd say half that time was rather stressful for my wife, and I probably wasn't paying attention to that. Now, obviously, marriage is both sides. You can't just blame one person and say it's all that person's fault. She could have communicated that with me, and we could have done things differently, but she chose to bottle it up and then eventually explode, and the story is history. So just be careful when you're making those decisions, just knowing that adjusting is hard on the family, but daily claims is not so hard. It was the traveling that was really hard. So daily claims is great. You can set your own schedule. You can be available with your family. It can do well. But if you're in a really, really busy area, then you could still be running 60, 70 hours a week, even as a daily adjuster, if you're in a busy area. So, it's not that it's only catastrophe work that's busy. You could just be in a busy area and be really, really busy and be ignoring your family at home. So there again, as a guy, you might need to back that down and say to that one firm, hey, I'm getting kind of busy here. I'm working 70 hours, 80 hours a week. I don't know if I can handle it. And you may need to drop off one of those firms and say, you know what? I really appreciate the work, but can I back off for a little bit and let you know if I can take some more in another month or so? And that's okay, because they understand that. They say, hey, if you're getting overwhelmed, you just take your least important firm or the one that's not paying this much, and maybe you back them down. I've done that before. I've actually called up a few of them and said, you know what, I'm just getting really busy. I'm going to have to pause your claims for a little bit. I'll get back with you when I can take some more. And one of those I didn't call back. So they just assumed, that I didn't want the work. So that's part of the balance, guys. You got to, and we're talking about when you're really busy. You're like, right now, half of you guys are like, well, I don't have that problem. I just want to find work. Well, it'll come, and then you're going to have to deal with that in the future. So just understand that. Yes, very easy. Duroc, hey, good to see you. Yeah, it's very easy to get blackballed if you were a PA. Absolutely. It's like I said, it's bad news, guys. In years experience, what state is your favorite state to work in as adjuster? I would say Texas. There's so much work in Texas, but again, last number I heard was 800 adjusters in Texas. So you're fighting with 800 people to find work. So, but when you're getting, I've been watching the weather and they're stinking getting stupid storms, like crazy storms every single day. They're getting new storms. And those guys are just milking it this year. They are killing it this year for work. So yeah, but then there was other years. I can remember a couple years back, we got hammered here in North Carolina, and Texas was as slow as could be. So, like I said, it's not always guaranteed work. There's ups and downs. You have to take it good and bad. Books to read, Nasser, about becoming an adjuster. I don't read a whole lot of books. I hate to say it, but I get all my information on YouTube. There's a ton of adjusters out there. Adjuster TV is a great one. I like his content. If you like lecturing, he's kind of a lecturer, whereas I kind of get on the job stuff going. But there's a bunch of guys out there doing adjuster stuff, and yeah, great content. You can learn a lot. I don't know that you necessarily need to read except for manuals on certification. You're welcome. Honest answers always. Mark, absolutely. Yeah, well, thanks for watching, guys. I really do appreciate it. One thing you'll know about me, this has just been over the years. And I think it's maturity that does this, guys. Like, I'm 57 now, and when I was 25, 30, and 35, I thought I knew everything. I thought I was the smartest guy in the world. Back then I was a carpenter and a remodeler, and I knew I was good at what I did. I was excellent at what I did. I was being hired by the best builders to trim houses and do work. I was very arrogant. I just thought I knew everything. And it wasn't until, and I was not very, I would say I was less honest back then because I was prideful and boastful. And it wasn't until later in life, and I would say till I was over 45, that I started to see that other people's opinion didn't really matter anymore. And it was just, I had to find contentment in who I was and be content with the skill level I had. I didn't need validation from people. I didn't need people to puff me up. I spent a lot of time, if you've been an employee for a long time, you're constantly fighting against your coworker to prove that you're better than him. So there's a lot of that puffing up that goes on in an employee mindset that drives you to act kind of immature. You're cutthroating, you're trying to make him look bad so you look bad. I mean, there's a lot of that junk goes on every day in the business world, and I hate it. I hated that. And so I just got to the point where I could say, you know what, I'm just content with who I am. If somebody wants to hire me, then base it on my skill level, and hopefully they'll be happy. And if they're not, then they'll find somebody else. So that's kind of what I did with this YouTube channel. Is I just said, I'm out here to put some information out, and if people like it, great. If they don't, if it doesn't succeed, or if it does succeed, it's just a whim. And so far, it's been doing really well. I've had a lot of positive feedback, and people are enjoying the content. So I'm blessed. Not getting rich from it. I didn't plan on it. I mean, my whole goal was not to make this a money-making thing. It was about sharing content and helping the people out that are even considering this as a career. And when I first started, I had three guys that were there to answer questions for me. I knew nothing at the beginning. I was as dumb as a $3 bill, except that I had construction experience. So I knew how to build things. I knew how a house was built. I knew all the names of the materials and stuff, but I didn't know how to be an adjuster because I was writing construction estimates. And for the first 100 claims, I was struggling with writing incorrect estimates because I was writing as if I was a contractor doing this work, and the insurance company writes different estimates, totally different. So it was a big learning curve. And instead of being, I guess, proud and arrogant about my work and my experience, I then was learning something totally new where I had to be humble and say, I don't think I understand what you guys are looking for in this estimate because it doesn't make any sense to me. It's not an appropriate way to write an estimate. Even though I could argue that left and right, that wasn't going to get me the work because that wasn't the estimate they were looking for. They weren't looking for a construction estimate. They were looking for an insurance estimate, which is totally different. I can go into that more in detail later. talk to you guys about that. But it's so, for instance, I'll give you one quick example. So let's say I've got 4 feet of baseboard damaged. Well, as a contractor, I know me piecing in a 4-foot piece of base is not going to look right. So I'm not going to put my name on that, meaning a reputation as a contractor to say, I'm just going to replace it and leave that big old ugly seam in there and put in, that little 4-foot piece of base. What I'm going to do is I'm probably going to go to the next doorway, maybe it's a 12-foot piece, cut off the broken one and put in a nice new piece, paint it all, be done, so that it all looks nice and beautiful. Well, my expense to fix that baseboard is now a 12-foot piece of base rather than a 4-foot piece of base. So when I was writing the construction estimate, I would write for a 12-foot piece of base and say, this is the proper way to fix it. Or on the flip side, if I had a drywall hole and the hole was 4 square feet, I know that my overlap for my joint tape and my floating is going to make that an 8 square foot space that needs to be primed. So I would put in 4 square feet of drywall, 8 square feet of primer, 8 square feet of first coat of paint, and then paint the walls. And then sometimes paint the walls one more time, because that's the proper way to do it. Well, that's a construction estimate. That's not an insurance estimate. Insurance estimate is 4 square feet of drywall, 4 square feet of primer, 4 square feet of paint. And then maybe they'll paint the wall one more time. The baseboard is 4 foot of base. 4 foot of paint on that base, and paint the base one more time. That's not the right way to fix it. But I had to learn the estimate writing of estimate, the way the insurance company wants you to do the estimate. And that was brand new to me. So it was kind of hard. The learning curve was hard, and I was arrogant. And so as I got older, I realized that other people had things they could teach me, and I needed to learn those. And so over time, I started caring less and less about my personal opinion and trying to puff myself up and the proud, being proud of what I knew what to do, and started just learning what the job entailed and becoming the best at what the job entailed. Because that's what they were paying me for. They were paying me to write an insurance estimate, and they wanted me to write the best insurance estimate I could, not write a construction estimate. So, I don't know, it's a long story, but one of the options, that comes in later is when that construction guy comes in and writes his estimate and then sends that into the insurance company and says, this is what it actually took for us to fix it. They will then send me the construction estimate for me to review, and I'll go line by line item, compare it to mine, and go, yeah, he added a little bit extra base, yep, just like I thought, and I'll approve the estimate because it's a supplement. It's actually this is the proper way that he wanted to fix the baseboard. So, but on the flip side, they know that the typical homeowner is just going to do probably that little 4-foot pop-in piece. They don't care what it looks like, goop it up with caulking and paint over it and do a crummy little repair. So they know that the typical repair is not going to do the exceptional or the best way of doing it. They're going to do it the way the insurance company pays for it. So, and think about this. How many people do you know, for instance, if we got a ceiling stain, okay, maybe it's not enough to break through the drywall, but it's a ceiling stain from a water leak. Insurance company is going to pay to prime that spot, and they're going to paint the ceiling to blend. Okay? How many homeowners are going to paint that ceiling when they get their check from the insurance company? Raise your hands. None. Maybe the guy in the highfalutin house, maybe he'll paint the ceiling. Most of the people are going to take a little bit of primer, go over that little spot, if they do that at all, and call it a day. And that's it. That's how they're going to do the repair. So the insurance company knows most people are not going to do the proper way to fix it. So they're even overpaying them as it is, which is the right way to do it. I mean, priming and painting the ceiling. But the majority of people, probably 90% of the people, are not going to paint that whole ceiling. So I think that's why the insurance estimates are different, is they're doing kind of bare bones, knowing that probably most of the people aren't going to do a really high quality repair. But if they do, that'll come in as a supplement from a home builder or contractor, and he's going to write a much bigger estimate, and then we have to approve it. So hope that made sense. So don't forget to like and share the live, guys. Push this thing at the top, right up there. Push that little like button. All right. Christian, you're welcome. I'm happy to give you time. And Chris, you're welcome for the macros. Absolutely. You're welcome, Steve, too. Mark, appreciate your comments. You guys are all great. I love it. You're very kind. Thanks for liking. All right, Libra Girl, thank you so much for the likes on Twitter or on TikTok. Thank you. Appreciate that so much. Very sweet. I'm glad you're here to watch my live. Any questions, don't forget to ask them. So Steve, just got my license, but I'm keeping my regular job for now. Is there an IA firm you'd recommend for remote work for beginner? So Steve, remote work, I don't know. A lot has changed since COVID. So yeah, definitely remote work is very popular nowadays. And I've actually seen a fair bit of people that are doing this. A lot of your file reviewers are also doing this. So that's pretty amazing as far as an opportunity for people in the future to do desk adjusting or file reviewing or appraisal work. And for me, I've always worked from home, but for the daily adjusters, we all work from home anyways. But the remote work is really good. So auto work, I think, is now being done at home. A lot of remote work for that too. And a lot of your State Farm, what do they call it? There's a beginning, I can't remember, refresh my memory, guys. It's kind of like the half adjusters, for taking claims. And I think State Farm's kind of like got a beginning part where they take the claims, do kind of the basics and stuff, and they can do that from home too. There's a bunch of that. Liability claims for auto insurance, they definitely can do that remotely as well. So great opportunity to do that stuff. That's where you're getting the police report and you're basically making a decision based on the police report and the evidence of what happened during the wreck, whether somebody pulled out and didn't give it the right of way, maybe they're speeding, shift lanes, caused the crash, whatever. So they're making liability decisions. I know some of your medical stuff also can be done from home too, where somebody got hurt in a car crash and they need a chiropractor bill paid, or, they went to the doctor or whatever. So a lot of that stuff can be done from home too. So, hey, Tim, but never a dumb question. Let's see. Okay, no, the demo version you cannot upload. I've had that a couple of questions before. You can't download it to the demo version, but you can save those macros so that when you ever do get live, you'll have them forever. So they're good forever for you. When you buy those macros, they're yours forever. All right, True Crypto Freedom. Hey, another True Crypto guy. Hey, Daniel, just accepted 8 claims, all 2-story steep. I don't have a steep gear besides Cougar Paws. Any advice? They're scope only. Yeah, that's a tough one if you don't have any gear. I would say just go out and buy yourself a 200-foot rope. That's a very good plus. And then they got a little bean bag on a zip line. That's what I use to throw over top of the roof. And then you attach a rope to it, pull the rope over, tie it to a tree in the back, tie it to a tree in the front, or car or railing or whatever. At least you have a rope. So even if you don't have a harness, excellent just to have a rope there, guys. I mean, your Cougar Paws are going to stick to a lot of stuff, but just having that extra stability on that rope, that's a huge plus for those. If it's hail claims that you're doing, great opportunity. What I do is to stand in the valleys and try and get your square on one side, square on the other side. You don't have to walk across the whole slope. You stand in the valley and you can get 2 slopes. Then you climb over it and then get the next valley, and you can do the left and the right over there. And the back's the only tough one, unless there's a valley back there. So yeah, valleys are my friend for the steep questions. Yeah, John, great idea. Taking photos for auto during slowdown. Yeah, I actually did some work. It was really interesting. It was scene documentation. That was kind of cool work. So I got sent by a company that said, hey, we just want you to go out to this intersection and take all these different pictures all around it was in a traffic circle and there was a wreck. And they wanted multiple pictures from different locations all the way around that traffic circle, the signs, the labels of the signs, speed limit signs, yielding signs, all that, skid marks, if there happen to be some skid marks on the road. And I get paid pretty decently to go out there and do that. So yeah, you can find those types of claims, in slow times too. There's so much insurance work. You can even go and get some boats if you wanted to and go do that stuff. Please save this live so I can catch the beginning. Oh yeah, absolutely. My lives all get uploaded to my YouTube channel. Yeah, sitting in the valleys. Yeah, I've done that a few times in my life. Yeah, it's when you're first learning, guys, climbing these roofs, it's as scary as can be. Trust me, I have been afraid on some of these roofs without a doubt. So don't think that you're a little pansy or whatever if you can't feel absolutely confident on a roof. I probably spent the first couple of years getting used to, and I had all my gear. I literally pulled the harness and the rope out on every single steep roof, probably the first 2 years. And here I'm a construction guy. But see, the difference in my experience was I was used to climbing on framing where there was always something to hold on to. So you got to remember, you're climbing on rafters, you got a rafter. You always got something to hold on to. When you're on a roof, the shingle's not holding you. I'm not really going to sit there and hold the one little shingle and hope that I got some grip on that. You don't have anything to hold on to. So it's very freaky to be standing on a 812 or 1012 with nothing to hold on to. So yeah, roofs are scary. They are scary to be on. What I try to do my best when I'm on these roofs is always keep a vent pipe or a turtle vent or HVAC vent, something below me when I go down that slope. When I go down that slope to do my test square, if it's on a 10, I can walk a 1012, no problem. But even if I'm walking that 1012, I make sure there's a pipe boot or a turtle vent or HVAC vent or skylight or something below me so that if a shingle breaks out from underneath my foot, then I got something to grab to while I'm sliding down the roof. So, which has never happened, by the way, but it's always a possibility. So you always want to be prepared. The best way to be on a roof is always prepare yourself for the potential of something happening. Never be so confident that you think it'll never happen, because that's the guy who falls. In fact, most of the guys I've talked to, the roofers I've talked to that have fallen, they said, oh yeah, it was only a 412. I didn't even think about it. I was walking all over the place and I tripped. So, he was walking on it like it was the ground. Now 412, I don't know how you fall off 412, but to me that happens to the best of us, I guess. But yeah, as soon as you let your guard down, you're going to fall. And so the best thing is to always be careful. Always keep the 3 point of contact. Left hand, right hand, 1 foot. 2 feet, 1 hand. Whatever it is, always a 3 point of contact at all times. And I think you'll find that'll keep you safe all the time. And I have held the shingle. So if I was getting off a ladder and it was just a little bit, something a little bit unstable, I felt like I still bungee my ladder every single time. But if it just felt like it was going to be a little unsafe, I grab a shingle. I'll pull up a shingle and just hold that shingle just for one little bit of extra grab, just so that left hand is not just waving in the air and doing nothing. I'm going to grab that shingle just so I get a little stability when I step off that ladder. So do it all the time. The time that I fell one time, and that was because I was double pulling, and I told the guy, I was with a roofer, and I told the guy, what happened was the gutter that I was tying off to with my second ladder was loose. And so I knew I didn't have a good hold on the ladder on the gutter. It was the only place to get up on the roof. He didn't have a 2-story ladder. And so I told the guy, I said, hey, can you hold the ladder on the bottom on the porch? Hold that nice and sturdy, because this is really not, I'm not able to get a good grab on this gutter here, and it's loose. So my ladder's kind of floating around. And what I want to say is that as long as you're bungeed super tight on that gutter, you got a ton of stability on that ladder. Just want to let you know. I have never had a ladder slip when I'm attached to a gutter, just to let you know. It just does, it's so strong. But this one, the gutter was off. It was off. A couple of the nails were not there, and it was loose, but I still wanted to bungee to it. So I told the guy, I said, hey, hold the ladder for me. 9-foot ladder, how tough could it be? So I get up there, everything's fine. Got up on the roof, did my thing, and I'm coming down. I told the guy, I said, hey, hold the ladder, I'm coming down. I got to step off. And I tried as quietly as I could to get off. I'm not jumping on the ladder. And the ladder kicked out. The guy his feet were not on the bottom of the ladder to stop the thing from kicking out. So guess what I did? I fell on the porch. I went straight down and fell on the porch. And thank goodness the guy was there. I wasn't going to roll off the porch because I was looking for something to grab as I was coming down. I actually grabbed the gutter and ripped it right off the house. So that slowed me down. And the guy caught me, but I wasn't going to roll off anyways. But he was scared the living daylights out of him. And so I asked the guy, I said, dude, why were you not holding the ladder? And he said, well, I didn't think it was going to kick out. I didn't have my feet on the bottom of the ladder. I said, well, what were you doing? And he says, well, I was holding the ladder. I'm like, well, the bottom is the most important part of the ladder. And I said, that's the part you should have had your foot on. So anyways, I didn't get hurt, but scared the tar out of both of us. But like I said, if you're careful, I think generally, I probably, I thought I had the guy. I mean, honestly, I don't even like trusting my roofers to do their job. So I'll actually teach them if they're holding the ladder, is I'll say, hey, can you put your feet on the bottom legs? Just kick your foot into the bottom leg so it doesn't kick out. And they do a better job of being safe. So I'm teaching them on how to be safe. But generally speaking, if I'm on a roof and those guys want to use my ladder, I tell them, no, can't use my ladder, buddy, because I'm afraid that they're going to move that ladder and not tell me they moved the ladder. Like if they bump it or kick it when they got off or whatever, and then we can't get off the roof. So in those situations, I only go up with the roofer if I'm right there with if I send him up first and then I'll follow up second, knowing that I was the last one off the ladder. I know it didn't move. Those are safety things that I do to make sure that, I'm not going to have a ladder that's going to kick out on me. So that's something, just things you learn over years, real important stuff. Your safety is most important. And, you don't want to rely to the, yes, pitch hopper is totally amazing, Desmond. I actually don't have one, but a lot of your roofers are using them all the time. I mean, it's almost like it's standard equipment for them. The pitch hopper is amazing. It's great for holding your ladder at the bottom on that porch. Great for climbing up the roof, getting on difficult situations off of a ladder. Excellent tool, but they're so expensive. I mean, who wants to pay $250 for a plastic cube or a wedge? I mean, it's a great tool. Don't get me wrong. Just something you have to write off and just bite the cost. Rope and harness versus a goat. It just depends what you're comfortable with. The goat, to me, I don't like their handles. They're really hard to climb. I like the Ridge Pro. I think that's a totally amazing tool because then if you put it on a pole, you can roll it up the edge, drop it over the ridge, and then you got this rope kind of wall all around with. Excellent tool, worth its weight in gold. That's an excellent tool. The rope and harness will do everything it'll do. It's just it takes more time to set up your rope and harness. Throw it over, and then get your, tie it to your pole or tree or car or whatever. So there's a lot more setup involved in a rope and harness. Your Ridge Pro is, already there on a pole, ready to go, and you don't even have to use it with the pole, but it's easier with the pole, so you don't have to climb to the ridge to hook it on. If you have the pole, you roll it up and then clip it over. The goat does the same thing. I just don't like their handles. I mean, they're too big and bulky, and they move. Sometimes you step on it wrong, you can twist it. So if you don't step on them and you just pull up on it, it's a pretty good tool. I had one the other day somebody used and it worked, but I just don't like it. It's not one of my favorites. The goat is not my favorite, but the Ridge Pro is definitely my favorite. All right. Dyer and Clark, very nice to meet you. Can I please talk to you? My wife and I just got our adjuster's license. Yeah, you're welcome to join us for the conversation. I've been on here 95 minutes. So it'll all be saved to my YouTube channel, so you can watch the whole thing later. We talked a lot about licensing and stuff at the beginning, how to get started. But really, my whole channel is geared towards getting you guys started, learning how to do it. So absolutely. So here's a question for you guys. Put a 1 in the comments if you are currently an adjuster, or put a 2 if you're just looking into it. Okay, so 1 for you are an adjuster, or 2 you're just looking into it. That'll help me figure out what you guys are dealing with. Okay, good. John, Dyron, Timba, good. Anybody else? Nasser, good. Good. Oh yeah, you were asking questions about public adjusting. Good. Mark, good. Good. So it seems like the majority of people here are adjusters, which is good. I mean, this is how you learn. Oh, very good, Desmond. That's okay. Good. No problem, Steve. Licensing, good. Yeah. So we got kind of a mix, half and half people. Good job. Yeah. So definitely, guys. Please check out my YouTube channel. No problem, Steve. Hey, we had to start somewhere. Don't worry about it. It'll all come. Definitely check out my YouTube channel. The whole point of this channel, there's over 200 videos now, I think. Definitely. Oh, that's great. See, I was 18 years in contracting. So you're right there, Desmond. You got a great, and Patrick, no problem. You're going to get work. Hey, Corey. How's it going? Good to see you. Looking for transition from auto to property. Oh, great, Timba. Yeah, that's where I started. I started with auto. That's how I got started. So good job, guys. Hey, everybody, don't lose hope. One of the things that I just can't stress to you enough, and Library Girl 1, good job. Okay, I'm glad you're watching. You're my only TikToker. It's amazing. Who knows? You never know. I'm glad you're there. You're the trooper. One person on TikTok. All right, no problem. All right, so yeah, so one thing I don't want you guys to get discouraged about is we all had to start somewhere. I came from the construction background, had no experience, and all of a sudden, had to move into this industry. I thought I had all the experience in the world I needed. I realized I didn't. So my steps, I basically tell you the steps that I took, I think are that made me win. It really did. It allowed me to succeed in this. So if you don't have the construction experience, you're kind of a little bit behind, but not terrible. And the reason being is that knowing how a house goes together and the parts of the house and the names of the different types of material, that's crucial to writing the estimate, because the majority of your damages are going to be pieces of a house, pieces of items. Like when water goes in, it's damaging pieces of the house. When a roof gets damaged, there's pieces of the house. If a hailstorm happens, there's pieces of the side of the house. There's pieces of the window. There's all different pieces of a house. And so in order to be a good adjuster, is you have to think kind of in pieces. It's how many pieces got damaged on this house. And it might be as simple as just one downspout on the front elevation and nothing else got damaged. That's just one piece that you're going to have to put in the estimate. So those are all things that how you have to think about when you're building an estimate. So you've got to know the construction materials in order to be successful on building an estimate. Otherwise, you don't know how to write an estimate. You just don't know how to do it. So first, if you've got the experience, you already know what the materials are. If you don't, I've got a couple of material identification videos in my YouTube channel. You can watch those. Or you can just go online and say parts of the siding, parts of the house, whatever. And you can start learning those material names. Okay, so first and foremost is you've got to get your home license. So home license means you're either licensed in a state that has a license or you're not. You have to find out what your state is. So if your state is licensed, then you have to get that license. And there's lots of courses out there you can take, pre-licensing courses to help you get through the passing of those tests. Definitely recommend those. That's what I did. I went through Adjuster Pro. I felt like it was a good program. Still recommending them to this day. Good product. Okay, so you get your home license, and then you've got to get carrier certifications. So this is before you even work. I mean, because you're literally, no one's going to hire you until you get carrier certifications. Meaning if you want to work for State Farm, you have to get State Farm property. They call it fire, or auto. You can work on either side of that route. To me, I felt like the auto side was easier to get into. So what I would recommend is starting with that first. You learn a lot of policy and you learn a lot of good traits. I would never do it any differently. I think it's really a great program to teach you a lot of the basics about policy. And there's lots of venues in that, meaning the medical side, liability side. I worked total loss. I did liability. I did SIU, which is Special Investigations Unit, searching for stolen cars and crimes that are committed with cars and chop shops and stuff. Really fascinating stuff. Learned a lot of really cool stuff in the auto industry. So did that. And then what's really cool is that once you've got that knowledge under you, then when I then pursued catastrophe claims. So I was working in the middle of Texas, or I was living in Texas at that time, and I got deployed to my first catastrophe was up in Abilene, Texas, doing a hailstorm. Knew nothing about writing claims. Did a horrible job. I only had 15 claims. All 15 were a disaster. And it took me 3 weeks to write 15 claims. But the funniest thing in the world is no one asked me how I did. Even though it was the most miserable, stressful thing in my entire life, I could say I went to a hailstorm in Abilene, Texas, and put it on my resume. Okay, so that's the key factor right there, is that I want you guys to make sure that you have a resume. Okay, so after you get your certifications, that means you can work for those. You're going to start to potentially look for some training in those areas, in State Farm training, State Farm Auto, Liberty Mutual. Then you want to do your Xactimate training, level 1 and level 2 certifications. That's done by Xactware, who is the company who created the software. It's a very hard test. Okay, so that's going to prove that you know how to use this software. Lots of videos on my YouTube channel teaching you how to use it. It will help you, but you're going to have to do a lot more work. Potentially take a course to learn how to do those, to get that certification. But pretty much before you can actually put a resume and tell a roster that you're interested in working for them, is you've got to have those certifications. You got to have the carriers. You got to have licensing, meaning multiple licenses. So you're not going to get daily claims as a new adjuster. You're just not going to do it. They don't hire daily adjusters with new adjusters. It's not a common thing. Now, they will if you're in Podunk, USA, and there's no adjusters there, and you're the only guy within 200 miles. You're going to probably be in a daily adjuster for that area very easily. But if there are other skilled people in your area, you're not going to get the work. And so they're going to hire the guys who are the best, who've had the most experience first. So your best bet is catastrophe work or desk adjusting work. And that's going to be where your first deployment is going to be. And I was saying auto is probably the easier route to go. You get in there in the auto, you learn a lot of stuff, then you can branch out, potentially even get transferred over and do some interior property desk adjusting. Great opportunity, because once you've got those carrier certifications, then they're going to help you get work, because they know then you know how to handle a claim that happens from that carrier. And there's also specific software for each one of these companies too that teach you how to use their claim system software. So that's all important too. So once you've got your licensing, try and get as many licenses as you can afford. A lot of times I just do coastal states because I know that's where the hurricanes are going to hit, or some of the inward states that have lots of hail, Indiana, Minnesota, Oklahoma, stuff like that. I do those states because they get hail all the time. Anyways, right after that is going to be rosters. Okay, rosters is going to be where you're going to get on as many rosters as you can. These are firms that provide you work. They are the only ones that can provide you work. You can't work directly for the insurance company on daily claims. You have to work through a roster. Now, the benefit of that roster also is they're going to go to that roster list to also deploy for catastrophes. So if you want to find work in catastrophe work, you got to be on the roster. And And then what I did was, once I was on that, I wasn't doing daily claims, I was not deployed, and I just basically called them every week. Every one of those rosters, called them every week and said, "You got anything work? Got any work?" And it got to the point where people are saying, "Can you stop calling us?" And I'm like, "Well, do you have any work? I really want to get started. I want to really want to do something." And eventually, I had a person tell me, "You're the most persistent person that we've ever had call us. Let me see if I can find you something." And that's how I got deployed. But I had called them. I kept a book, and I had called that person about 6 times in about a month, and they were really annoyed at hearing me. So finally, by annoyance, I finally got them to pay attention, and I got deployed. So that's the persistence that you're fighting to prove yourself amongst all the other adjusters out there looking for the same job. And those firms, so I talked to a couple of the firm managers, and this was over time, and they said, they were telling me they get 10 calls an hour for people looking for work. And he said, when I hang up the phone, I've already forgot you. I don't even know who it was I was on the phone with. And he says, but you called us every other day. And he said, I knew you by name when they told me Daniel was calling again for work. And he said, that's the persistence that we knew that you were the type of person we were looking for. And that's why they hired me and put me on the roster and started giving me claims. But persistence is the only way to do this in this business, because there's too many people out there looking for the same work. Now you have to remember, I'm getting on 40 rosters, you're getting on 40 rosters, and thousands of other people are getting on 40 rosters. We're all fighting for the same position. So every firm has got the same people on their rosters. So think about it. We're all fighting for the same jobs. It's not like you all of a sudden have 40 different lists, and you got a whole different group of people on each one. All the same people are on the same rosters. So when they go down a list and they're looking for somebody, they're kind of looking for the people that have the most experience, the most licenses, the most claims handled, potentially. Maybe their resume looks really great. Not as focused on the resume, but simple things like, hey, you know how to use Excel and Word and spell check, and maybe Grammarly you can put on there. Just lots of things. You know how to write proper sentences. Silliest things in the world to be able to put on your resume, but these are all things that they want to know that you know how to use. You're fluent in computer skills, and maybe dictation software. Who knows? I mean, all sorts of things you can put on your resume as far as skills, and it's all really, really important. See, I told you I could talk forever. I get on these little rants, and I miss all these comments. John came from a restoration contractor background and did drive along with adjuster prior to starting. Oh, good. Fantastic. That's a great opportunity there too. Working for roofers, writing estimates for them. Great opportunity there. Working for a restoration company, writing estimates for them. Great work and experience even before you become an adjuster. So those are all great. Tornado claims, yes. Handled many a tornado claim. I don't like them. They do a lot of damage. But they don't give us a lot of claims because they don't hit that many houses. They just, 2-mile track, and it's only half a mile wide, and maybe it hits a barn and 5 houses. So it's not a lot of work, but there's a ton of damage to it, so they take a long time to write up. Xavier, welcome. And best for IA, and besides HAG and the Xactimate license certification, any other certifications or training worth investing in? HAG is not even, I don't even consider HAG something that I would spend money on. It's extremely expensive to keep up, and no one asks for that certification. So I wouldn't spend the money. It's like $2,000 a year to keep up. The last time I checked it, super, super expensive, and nobody cares about it. Because even if you're HAG certified, they're not going to listen to you anyway. So, so it's kind of crazy. Any other certifications? Just the carriers. I would definitely get your Texas windstorm. That's an easy one to get every year. That means you can work the storms that happen in Texas. They have a specific carrier. It's a statewide wind certification that you have to have it before you can work their claims on the coast. Is it possible to start a desk adjuster with no experience? JR, absolutely. I sat beside many people I'll tell you stories that'll make you laugh super hard. But little 80-pound girl, never done a thing in her life, never worked a claim in her life, is sitting next to me. Lied that she knew how to use the software and got a job. So you could making $100,000 a year, and all she did all day long, and I was so frustrated. All day long, all she did was ask me questions. How do you do this? How do you do that? Where do you find that in the software? And I said, do you know how to use this software? And she goes, no, I don't know how to use it at all. I said, well, how did you get a job? She goes, I lied. I was like, brilliant. Sat beside many people, didn't have a clue what they were doing, just lied. Now, I don't recommend lying, but no experience, I think pretty common, very, very common to find out, because they want people to answer the phone. They want people to be able to do the job, warm body. All right. Let's ortho adjust. JR is very hard to get on without experience. Unless it's a big storm, you might get a chance when they show them what you're worth. That's a shot. Yeah. Like I said, I got my first shot on a catastrophe hailstorm because they needed everybody in the world to go to a 3-inch hail event in Abilene. And I didn't know what I was doing, but I got deployed and fought through some of the beginning claims, but then it was a great experience. So never turn down an opportunity. And let's just say, here's the thing. You're not going to get kicked off unless you just blatantly don't show up on, you don't adjust them, you just don't do a good job. But if you're there earnestly trying to learn and do a good job, they're not going to kick you out of the deployment. It's just going to take you a long time to finish the claims that are there. But yeah, everybody can do it. And just start somewhere and keep doing it. As an IA, doesn't matter what adjusting software experience we use. Well, Xactimate is the software of choice, but Symbility seems to be coming back in. I have both Symbility certifications. I don't know if I had a certification, but I had plenty of experience in Symbility. I just don't choose to use it because most people are using Xactimate. There are a lot of carriers that have switched back and forth. I know at one point Erie was doing it. They've gone back and forth several times between Xactimate and Symbility. So yeah, you can set yourself apart a little bit if you know how to use Symbility, but using both at the same time, I was pulling my hair out because they operate differently, and it's hard to be fast at something when you're jumping around. So, but yeah, you could use Symbility, but everything's Xactimate, so I would just say, just get really good at that. Hag's good for Canada. Oh, true. I didn't know that. That's very good to know. JR, sheesh. Thank you. All right. Yeah, you're probably responding to JR or to Ortho Adjust question. No worries. All right, you guys have any questions? I think I got everything caught up, unless I forgot your question. Can we use you as a reference? Well, if you were working with me, then I could probably use you as a reference, or use me as a reference. But I'm not taking any people right now. As far as mentors, pretty much my mentorship is here. This is what I wanted to do, is be available for people, do the consulting calls if you really wanted to spend some time. Like I said, we offer an hour talk on the phone, specifically catered to you. So we're talking on the phone, we're on a video call if you want to do that. And great opportunity for you guys to learn and have specific questions answered. Robert, thanks for coming. New to your channel, been thinking of becoming an adjuster. I'm a certified real estate appraiser for the last 25 years. I love the job that you can just stick it up and downs. Yeah. Well, adjusting's up and downs too. So I understand real estate's for sure the same. But yeah, you got a lot of familiar experience as an appraiser in the construction industry for sure. So it's a great way to, I have a lot of people that have switched over to adjusting as they get older, like as they're retiring. I had a couple of police officers. I've had some government workers. I had a bunch of people that were retiring, Army guy, and they decided to be adjusters. And then we sat and talked through that option for them. And it's great because what is really cool about adjusting is that you can do flood adjusting forever. Think about it. As long as you can walk and get to a job, you're not climbing a roof to do any flood stuff. You can write an adjustment for flood And you can do that until you're 90 if you wanted to. No one's telling you can't work. If you can pull out a good product and you're still doing a good job, it doesn't matter what age you are. So for me, who knows when I'm going to retire? I like working so much. So I hate to say it, but I'm a workaholic. I like working. I get enjoyment out of it. I feel like it keeps me young. It keeps me purposeful. It keeps my brain sharp. I think if I retired and was playing golf every day and just sitting around the house, I would get lazy as a bum, and I just don't want to do that. I mean, I'd travel more probably, but I like the purpose of working because it brings me fulfillment. I like helping people. I feel like I meet new people all the time. I enjoy that. So I have a feeling that I'll probably be adjusting till the day I die. Not obviously not climbing roofs, but definitely, maybe crop adjusting or, maybe boats or something. I mean, just all sorts of, there's so many different options out there for adjusting. You can do chemical stuff, chemical spill adjusting, you name it. I mean, there's just construction defects. I mean, there's all sorts, liability of all sorts. Just so many different ways to find work as an adjuster. So that's what's really cool. And then as you become a general adjuster, which means you have more and more experience, then you can start charging more, $110 an hour for. I've got a job right now where I'm making $110 an hour as time and expense. Just because I have 10 years experience as an adjuster, they consider me a general adjuster, and so I'm out there making top dollar, making really, really good money on some of these time and expense adjustments. So really, just lots of opportunity. It gets better the more you're around. All right, so can you have a mitigation company as an adjuster? So conflict of interest. And this was Desmond asking this. I had a general contractor, unlimited general contractor's license when I was building. And I was told I had to give that up. And the reason being is that they did not want the conflict of interest potential of me being able to work as a remodeler and an adjuster, potentially even keeping my business. And maybe I wasn't the one actually doing the work, but I could be potentially referring my company to do that work. And it's the same thing that goes for a mitigation company, is that you could be referring your business and saying, hey, you walk up to a house that's flooded and say, oh, do you have a mitigation contractor? Oh, I got a company. If you'd like us to come out there and help you. That's insurance fraud. Okay, so that's not allowed in this industry. It's a conflict of interest as far as the insurance world goes. If you are taking your continuing education, which you will every 2 years, you have to renew it sometimes every year depending on your state. One of the ethics courses that you have to take, it talks about the conflict of interest in some of these lines of business, and a mitigation would be definitely a conflict of interest as well as a contractor. And so the downside is that if you get caught, you'll never be an adjuster for the rest of your life if you get a finding against you for that breach of insurance, basically insurance, what do you call it? Code of ethics or whatever. Once you get a finding against you, you'll never be an adjuster for the rest of your life. So it's just, to me, I just look at that and go, that's not worth it. Not worth it to me. So I gave up my license. Yeah, I hated it, but it was just part of, I wanted to be an adjuster more than I wanted to be a contractor. Oh, as far as my consulting, look in any of my videos. So if you're looking on my channel and you go into the details, I've got a link in there for consulting. So yeah, you just click on it and sign up, and it'll send me a note, and we can agree on a time. Water mitigation certification training, I don't know. I can't help you with that. Sorry, Xavier. I don't have enough experience about that side of licensing, but I'm sure there's a certification out there. You just have to look it up. Yeah, I think mitigation is definitely worth doing. Basically, I would say what you can do as a mitigation guy is that you can offer a mitigation company that you could write their estimates for them. So you get practice writing estimates. And I don't know how they pay. You might pay based on the estimate, but you'll be doing exactly what an adjuster does, is they go out to the go out to the job. As the guys are all tearing out the damaged water items, you're going to write an estimate as if you're going to do the repair, because a lot of your mitigation companies are now doing the repairs. And so you would be writing an estimate, just like me. I'm writing an estimate for the insurance company to repair. You'd be writing an estimate for the insured to repair. And what they end up doing is, or not the insured, but the mitigation company, the rebuild, they sometimes will do the rebuild as well as the tear out. So you might be able to find work with them and say, hey, can I write your estimates, or can I get trained by your guys, or can I shadow? Maybe even say to them, hey, can I shadow you for a day? Can I shadow your estimator for a day? And do it for free. And then just have an opportunity to get trained by him for a day to be able to say, this is what I do, this is how I write my estimate, blah, blah, blah. And you're looking over his shoulder when he goes back to the office, and you're learning how he writes his estimates. Valuable information like you wouldn't believe. And you can actually have him send you a copy of his estimate after he's done, and then you can study how to write the estimate. So very cool way to learn how to write estimates is to work for a mitigation company. And the same thing goes for roofers. Roofers, they write their own estimate too, and they turn that into the insurance company, and you can learn from a roofer on how they write estimates too. You're welcome, Desmond. Any referrals? I can't give any referrals, unfortunately. That's not something I do. Because if I gave you a bad one, man, you'd be back at me faster. And, well, you told me this guy. No, I don't do referrals. What do I think about the current storms in Nebraska? I think I already talked to somebody about that. Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. I love hailstorms. In fact, I'm a guy in my family that gets excited when a storm comes. I'm watching the weather all over the United States all the time. And, just as the news is coming up or whatever, they're saying, yeah, there's a whole line of storms coming to the Midwest. Oh, bring some serious rain to the East Coast. I'm getting all excited. I'm like, yeah, maybe we get some hail. So that's, you'll find as an adjuster, you're really excited about the hail events that come, or the wind events, or whatever, a big thunderstorm. And then now here I've got 10 days of sun, for the next 10 days, nothing but sun, no storms. I hate it. So here we are, almost the end of April, and I can't seem to get a hailstorm in North Carolina. So they get them south, but I can't get it here. So, all right, guys, any last questions? I think I'm going to head out of here. Been here a couple hours, but don't forget to check out, if you missed some of this, you can go to my YouTube. I'll have it uploaded there. You guys can watch it again. Yeah, thanks to the mountains. Yeah, it stops everything from coming. I know it, Corey. You know as well as I do. All right, guys. Thank you so much all for coming. I really appreciate it. And we're going to do this more often. Maybe I'll do it every Saturday. I need to get back and doing this stuff. You're welcome, Mark, anytime. Yes, well, this year is going to be totally amazing for hurricanes. They already said 23 named storms. Yeah, that's going to be killer. You're welcome, JR. Timba, anytime. Let me know if you didn't get that video for the macros, and I can help you get that. You can shoot me an email too, adjuster2help@gmail.com, and then number 2 in the middle. You can shoot me an email if you didn't get it. But you'll get an email with your macros. I think it's the Clear Sky drone imagery one, if you didn't get it. But there'll be a way for you to get a hold of me if you need it anyway. So, but guys, don't forget to watch my videos. Ask me any questions, even on the videos. I'm very good at responding to the comments and telling you guys questions that you have. So feel free to answer anything at all. And we'll check you guys next time. Let's see. Can anyone message me a question? My boss is ripping me off doing his work at our house. Well, guys, nice to see y'all.